Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Ask a Clutter Boss, the internet's best decluttering advice show. I am Gina Ledwith, co-CEO of Clutter Boss, and I am so thrilled to be here with you today. So if you are here watching me live, say hello. I always love to see who's with me and who I'm chatting with, and hopefully, if you have questions, you'll feel comfortable sharing them in the chat, in the comments. Um, Today, I wanted to talk about uh, pretty much going back to basics with a question that we get asked a lot. Good morning, Carrie. And that is, where do I even start? Right? So, very common question. And I say go back to basics, but it is really the one thing that I feel like helps you at the beginning, middle, and all throughout this process, and then even beyond. So, how do you get started? Good morning, Madonna. What's the first step? Where do I start? And this comes from just a feeling of complete overwhelm, just paralyzed, um, all those things. Good morning, Kesey. Thank you so much. Yes, I am just back today. Well, yesterday from vacation. So I'm glad to get to be here with you all. And so back to that basic question of where do I begin? So there really isn't a specific answer to that. And as much as everyone, and we've seen and worked with thousands and thousands and thousands of people asking, where do I start? What's the first step? How do I do this? And yes, there is a way to go through this process that can help. Yet, getting started, there is no one best first step for everyone. We all have to decide what that first best step is for us. But the way to get there is to recognize that you don't have to worry about tackling this entire process all at once or make a plan for the whole thing all at once. You just need to decide that first step. And when we can narrow down, because this is a mental challenge, this is not a physical challenge we're talking about, right? Sometimes it can be, but that first step really usually is that feeling of stuck comes from mental paralysis, really. Not being able to think through the process or how to get started. So I always like to say, narrow your focus down to the bare minimum task, like a task that you feel, and this is how I always like to describe it. If I were to say to you, okay, let's tackle the kitchen, and you're like, whoa, this is too much. This is overwhelming. Okay, so how about we tackle the cabinets first? And you're still like, whoa, hi, Denise. Keep going, keep breaking it down. So then I say, okay, how about this wall of cabinets? And that still feels overwhelming. So, okay, how about the left cabinet? Nope, still feels overwhelming. Hello, Julia. So break it down, keep going. How about the top part of the left cabinet? Nope, still feels like too much. Then maybe we just have to go to a shelf or a section of a shelf. This is the way. This is the way to reduce your overwhelm and get you to take that first step. It does not have to be massive, even though the process ahead or the project may be a massive one, right? For most of us decluttering our home, thanks, Julia. For most of us decluttering our home, when we start, we are overwhelmed. That's why I wanted to talk about this, because it's a very basic question that we get asked. And it can, like I said, it can be beginning of your process, the middle, the end, all the way through. It doesn't matter where this is. Narrowing your focus down to reduce that overwhelm is going to enable you to take action. And at the end of the day, action is the name of the game. That's it. Any action, because one action, small, big, medium, doesn't matter. Each one is building upon the next. So reducing your what you're asking of yourself at any given time is going to minimize that overwhelm. Does that make sense? Is there anyone that I see Julia saying this resonates? Does this resonate with anyone else, or have you tried this in a sense that you can say, oh yeah, that worked before? Sometimes we forget because the overwhelm is so strong. Mentally, we just kind of shut down. So at any time, thanks, Denise, at any time in this process, and really every time we go to take action, a plan is great, right? Have a plan. But we don't know exactly how we're going to navigate that plan once we actually put it in place. We can expect or think that it's going to go a certain way, and then it doesn't, which is inevitable. That is not a weakness. That is not a fault of yours. That is nothing other than you had a plan, you tried it out, it didn't quite work. So we're going to pivot and we're going to reassess and we're going to make a new plan. Yet you need to be able to take that first step, right? We don't want to stay in paralysis of just not even knowing where to begin. So one way to do that is what I've just mentioned, in breaking things down into the smallest possible task that has you saying, oh, I can do that. That's the what we want to hear. And then you go tackle that. And then you decide what that next thing is that you have that same feeling about. If you are overwhelmed in any way, it will impact your process. It will impact how you're able to navigate the decisions that you have to make to declutter whatever that area is that you're working on. I just want to read what Madonna's saying here. Whether mentally, physically, psychologically struggling, number one is something that makes you happy. Whatever will get me moving, get out of bed, drink Diet Coke, brush teeth, get those quick wins. Quick wins are great. Front loading your day is another great one. Do what you know you want to accomplish in a day. Like, start on those things early on. There's a lot you can do to unstick yourself, become unstuck. And so breaking those things down is one way. The other way is to just decide, I'm going to reach out. We call it touch and tackle. I'm going to reach out. I'm going to touch something. I'm going to make a decision on it. And that's going to be my action. What happens when you take action is that you are gradually reducing that overwhelm. If you're going to take these small action steps, but you're also compiling, like you're adding on action upon action upon action. And before you know it, you've taken way more action than you would have had you stayed stuck and spinning your wheels and trying to figure out how to accomplish it all, right? Because it will all get accomplished. And when you take those small steps, they build upon each other. And before you know it, like I said, you've come a long way. And then with that action comes motivation, which also reduces that overwhelm. So I hope this is helping. There are many, many different strategies you can use for decluttering. But I think that the thing that pretty much everyone we've ever worked with, including myself, good morning, DA, the overwhelm is real. The struggle is immense. We have to find ways that work for us to tackle that. So I'm just giving you some examples of ways that I know have worked for me, for, many, many, many of you in our community. And, they may not, right? You have to find the thing that works for you. And that goes for decluttering too. Like these strategies, I'm specifically talking about becoming unstuck and, getting back to basics and figuring out what works for you. But this truly can be something you have to reassess on a daily basis, or sometimes, when the overwhelm is really high throughout the day. The other thing I want to say, Julie is saying, yes, more motivation comes with action. Absolutely. When we take action, it's just a feel good. It makes us feel good. We've done something. We've accomplished something. The other thing I want to talk about in typically we hear, like when someone is stuck, is your expectations and how they match up to reality. Now, because we would all love to have our homes decluttered yesterday, our expectations can tend to be exaggerated. And so before I get there, hang on. Commitment is tested by action. The only real measure of commitment is action. Talk is cheap. Action is expensive. John Maxwell. Hey, nice point there. Thanks, Madonna. So expectations of yourself, right? And this can, of course, be applied when you're dealing with other people too. But when it comes to your decluttering journey and feeling stuck and overwhelmed, expectations being way too high, which is very, very common, can make you feel like you're not doing anything or not doing enough, or, you know, this will never happen, or any of those mindsets that come along with those high expectations that we have of ourselves. Now, this does not mean, I am in no way saying that you're not capable of what you're saying you want to do. The expectation is almost always related to how much can we get done in a specific amount of time. So let's just say, again, we're going to go back to the kitchen. We're decluttering our kitchen and you're like, oh, I can get this done today. And then you start and you're all of a sudden you've gotten through one cabinet and 2 hours have gone by. And you're like, holy cow, like what the heck? How did that take so long? And you're feeling defeated because you expected to do the whole kitchen, or you laid out that, oh, I can get this done today expectation, thinking it was totally possible. But have you ever decluttered your kitchen before? Do you have any frame of reference to compare that to? So the thing is that you misjudged time, which is common. We always say multiply what you think by 3, and that'll come a little bit closer to reality. So this can create a form of paralysis in taking action, because you're like, oh my gosh, I thought I was going to do the whole kitchen today. I only got to one cabinet and I have no more time to give. Right? Or my energy is so low because of all the decisions I had to make in that one area. I don't know that I can go push myself any further. And I caution you, when you're feeling like that, say, oh no, but I'm going to keep doing this, to really, really tap into how you're feeling physically, mentally, and emotionally. This doesn't mean maybe you won't come back to it, but you need to honor how you're feeling, because this can fuel overwhelm and lack of action. If you're feeling defeated because your expectations were unrealistic, right, given the time, like time-wise, then that will contribute to your desire or willingness to go back and do more again, because you don't want to feel defeated again. So we have to adjust our expectations. And so that is difficult when you haven't, like you're tackling something new, right? So as you go through the decluttering journey, your own journey, you'll start to see, you'll learn the lesson of how long things really take. And so I encourage you to always overestimate the amount of time things will take. Try not to get discouraged when your expectations aren't met, because likely it was because you just misjudged. You misjudged the time. And yes, we want things to happen quickly. So our expectations usually match up to that, which is not realistic. So that's another way to really manage your emotional and mental state when it comes to decluttering. Oh, definitely. There is a thing called expectation hangover for sure. Yep. So I really hope these things are helpful, because the last thing we ever want is for someone to stay in a stuck mode, right? We want to be able to climb out of that. And here's the thing, this feeling stuck, overwhelmed, lack of motivation will happen throughout this journey. So if you can practice this, if you can practice, setting expectations and seeing them as an outline maybe, or an estimate rather than a definitive, that will really help. But over time, you're going to learn so much. Every stumbling block, any wall you hit in this process, like anything at all, feelings of defeat or failure or overwhelm, or a plan, you put a plan in place and it didn't work. Learn something along the way from every single day and every single action you take. If you put a plan in place, you go through, you follow along that plan, and it doesn't quite work, that's not failure. That's feedback for you to take and just readjust your plan, right? Make a new plan for the next time. Learn what works and what doesn't work for you. That answer is different for everybody. So this is really some of the key things that I think really help when especially when we're starting out. But anytime we come up against that overwhelm or feeling of defeat and lack of motivation. Thanks, guys. Yeah, we're all learning and growing every single day if we let it, right? If we let these experiences teach us something about ourselves, before you know it, you know yourself really well, and you're actually going to be able to create a plan that is so much more impactful and smooth than when you first start out. Yeah, you just have to learn about yourself. There's no one that can tell you exactly how this is going to go. So what is misjudging time leading to failed expectations? Yeah. It's not, see, so that's the thing, is like your expectations, not meeting those is not a failure, right? The same way we can put a plan together and then we expect like, okay, this plan is going to go perfectly, and then it doesn't. It just doesn't usually. We can learn from that and make a new plan so that the more we do that, the closer we come to things working really well. So yeah, any other questions, comments about this? I think these are some really great strategies that we can use to propel us forward through those difficult times and to even get started. And when I say getting started, I don't mean just on the massive declutter, your big declutter. I mean, each time you go to tackle a different project, being a different section of your home or a different category: paper, closets, kitchen, bathroom, cosmetics, linen closet. It doesn't matter what the project is. We can feel overwhelmed at the start of it, throughout it, towards the end of it. But the more we learn about ourselves, the easier it is to navigate all of this. And of course, leaning on the community here is another great way to come out of some of these things. But feeling stuck is a sure way to not take action. And the key is action and consistent action. And those all add up. So do whatever that smallest thing is that you can do to make this, to bring yourself closer to that end goal. So if nothing else, I would like to say that we do have a free workshop each week that we do right now for people who are not already in one of our programs. If you would like to join in on that, we're doing one tomorrow, and I'm going to drop the link in the comments. There you go. I think it should be there now. So if you are not already working with us, please think about joining that workshop, because we'll talk about some of these things, but we'll also talk about things like, what is it costing you to not declutter, how it impacts you in many, many different ways, other than just what we realize. And we talk through a lot of things and what really is missing from most decluttering strategies. So I hope you'll join us if you're not already working with us. Lots of great information there, and it usually lasts about an hour. So the link there in the comments for you. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to us, support@clutterboss.com. Thank you everyone for being here today. Consistency over intensity. I like that. Yeah, anything that can minimize the pressured feeling or the heavy feeling of this process is really amazing. So consistency, showing up daily, doing one thing a day, like adding on to what you're already doing, whatever that looks like for you. I wish you all an amazing decluttering journey. We are here to help if you ever need anything. Again, support@clutterboss.com. Have an amazing week this week, and tune in next time with Jess, likely next week, for another episode of Ask a Clutter Boss. Thanks everyone for being here. It was great to see you all. Take care. Bye for now.